So before proceeding today, I wish to remind everyone that the proceedings of today's meeting are being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast via the Council's internet site. By participating in the meeting, we are consenting to being filmed and to those images being broadcast on the Council's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. I should also remind all present that I have the discretion to terminate or suspend the webcasting if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings or that continued webcasting might infringe the rights of any individual. If we could just test that the interpretation is working before we start the meeting. Yes, I can hear you. Yep. Anybody got any problems? No. Okay, that's great. In that case, we'll formally start the meeting now then. So welcome to this meeting of Cabinet being held on the 19th of October. This meeting is being webcast with the exception of any business that the Cabinet resolves to exclude the press and public because of the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by the Local Government Act 1972. So if I hand over to Gary now.
Thank you, Chair. In respect to declaration of interests, members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available electronically.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Does anybody have any declarations that they wish to declare of interest that they wish to declare at this moment? Nope, can't see anything. As I say, formally for the meeting, we have I missed out apologies, which is item 1. So obviously we've got the leader. Okay, item 3, urgent matters. Notices of items which should be considered at the meeting as a matter of urgency. I've had none notified to me. Gary, anything?
No urgent matters notified to me either.
No. Okay, thank you very much. In that case, we'll go to item 4 on the agenda, which is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 21st of September. Take them for accuracy first of all. So page 5, items 1 to 4. Page 6, items, the remainder of 4 and 5. And over the page to page 7, item 6. And over the page, item 7, page 8. And on page 9. Page 10, item 8. Item 9. And over the page to page 11. And the top of page 12. Item 10. Item 11. And the top of page 13. Okay, can I have a proposer that's a true and accurate record, please? Mark, thank you. And a seconder? Tony? Okay. Are we all happy that they are a true and accurate record? Okay, nobody dissenting on that. just quickly go through for any matters arising. So I'll assume there aren't any up on 1 to 3. Item 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, thank you very much. So we now move to item 5 on the agenda, which is graphic design and print framework dynamic purchasing system. Nice, interesting title there. So Hugh and Liz are here for this one. So Hugh, did you want to introduce this one, please?
Yeah, but everybody, hope you're well. Hopefully this should be quite straightforward. This is the report is about basically the graphic design framework that we have, and we're seeking approval really for the purchasing system. First of all, print. It's for stuff like banners, vehicles, signage, etc. And just really want Cabinet's approval to move this forward, please.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. Liz, is there anything you wish to elaborate on that one before we throw it open?
Just to say, this is the second framework, and it's a framework that we're delivering alongside Flintshire. So it's that's why the amount is a significant amount. It's not all our spending, and we've been supported by the joint procurement team to be able to put this in place. The difference this time is that it's a dynamic procurement system, so it means that we're able to add new suppliers onto the framework at any time during the period, which means that in particular any local businesses can apply to join the framework as and when they're ready. So those are the key points I just wanted to raise today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. So there were 5 individual lots, aren't there, within covering different sectors of work, and that's contained within the report. Okay, any questions from members of Cabinet in relation to this, please?
Could I ask one, Chair, please, or Julie?
Yep, Brian.
Yeah. How will we promote companies that are not on the framework at the moment? Will we be proactive in promoting the opportunity to engage with the framework? Thank you.
Yes, we worked closely with the EBD team and with Flintshire's equivalent to engage more proactively with local suppliers, which went okay, but we would have liked to have seen more. So it's an ongoing piece of work that we want to do going forward, and having the dynamic system means that we're able to do that rather than doing it once every 5 or 6 years. We can do it on an ongoing basis. So yes, that's something we want to work on.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Can't see any other hands from members of Cabinet. Any other members present wish to ask any questions in relation to this item, please? Nope, can't see anything. Okay, Hugh, so can I ask you to take it to the recommendation, please?
Yeah, well, basically just approve the new dynamic purchasing system framework list of suppliers who have been evaluated.
Okay, so you're obviously proposing that. Is there a seconder for that, please?
Yes. Second.
Oh, I think Bobby just got in first there. Okay, is there anybody against that? Nope, not seeing anything. So we consider that one is carried. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Liz.
Bye.
Okay, so we'll move on now. Just get it up on screen. Item 6 on the agenda, is the proposed approach to tendering for phase 2 of the new Denbighshire waste transfer station at Colomendy Industrial Estate. We've got, I did see him earlier, Tony Ward here somewhere. And Brian, did you want to introduce this one, please?
Yeah, thanks, Julian. We should have had Tara Dumas with us this morning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's unwell, so she's
Oh,
put her apologies in. But in principle, this is a straightforward report, as it's detailed in the title, and actually it mirrors the phase 1 aspect of the project, where we brought the tender process to Cabinet, looking for agreement to proceed to the tender element of the process. As per phase 1, we would come back, if it's approved today, phase 2, we will come back to Cabinet with the report on the evaluation of the tenders. I suppose it's worth mentioning in dispatches, this is more directed at the consortium that will be on the site, where our new waste model project and development has already started. The benefits, if the phase 2 contract is awarded, will be beneficial to the consortium of companies that are on site at Colomendy at the moment. And as we've said a number of times in the past, this project now is developing beyond a new waste model facility. It's the benefits to the businesses that are on the site there, hence known as the consortium. Thank you.
Okay, very much working in partnership, as you say. Welcome to Peter Clayton as well. Tony or Peter, is there anything you want to add to Brian's introduction before we go to questions? Tony, you're on mute. I'm glad it wasn't me that was the first one that did that.
Sorry, is that the Gary I can see there? Sorry, well, there's something going wrong really quite strange with my camera, so I'm switching it back off. It seems to be showing half my head in a distorted way. So I'll switch that off. Nobody wants to see that. No, nothing really, Julian, else that I want to say. I mean, me and Peter are here to answer any questions on this report. I think or hope that it's a fairly straightforward report. It's just another part of the process in relation to the development of the new waste depot we need for the new service model. Obviously, the phase 1 contract, we came to Cabinet to ask for permission to go to tender. We brought the award report here to approve the tender, and we're going through the same process for this phase 2.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Anything you wanted to add, Peter?
No, I don't think so, no.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. So if I can ask Cabinet members if they have any questions. Mark, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Chair. So really good report, so thanks for that. Very good to read and easy to read, but there's just a couple of points on there. Again, you've been honest that on the key risks, 10.1, there's quite a few highs. So you've put the highs in there. So do you think any of them are likely to happen, and what work you're doing to try and manage that? Because we have put high on the report. And Denby member area group's been well informed on this. I was just wondering whether Tony and Peter in the future can invite a site visit when safe and when possible in the future. I think that'd be really beneficial for the local members. Thank you. Talking about.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Who wants to pick up those to respond?
Yeah, I'll do it, Tony, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, Peter.
Yeah, in terms of obviously everyone's aware of sort of market pressures, inflation, material prices that are ongoing in the wider world. So potentially they'll have an impact on the tendered price that will be returned. We've tried to estimate the potential impact of that in the estimated value of this phase 2 tender return. But the honest answer is, until we get the tenders back, we won't know with any certainty what the figure will look like. We do have a decent risk and contingency pot in the depot budget to deal with any cost increases on phase 2, and I think at the moment it should be manageable. But as I say, there's some odd things going on in the world that we're not in control of, so we need to wait really and see what the tendered prices come back at. But we're just alerting you to the fact that that risk does exist in the market really. And in terms of the other risks, then we always put high risk about the financial suitability of people who tender, but there's always a financial check as part of the procurement process, the tendering process anyway, that we'll go through. So that should be covered off by that. We are confident that we will get tender responses to the tender, because there are people who are interested in doing the work for sure. So yeah, just sort of trying to be honest about, you know, some of the uncertainties that are around at the moment, really. Yeah. In terms of the Ddinbych mag, then yes, certainly we can certainly set a meeting up for you to come to site and have a look around at some point, probably next year. Phase 1 is underway at the moment, as you're aware, and at the moment it's a bit of a quagmire, really. So I wouldn't recommend a walk around at this point in time. But when we get into contract 2, maybe spring, summer next year, that would be probably the ideal time to potentially come and have a look.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, just as a little bit of extra comfort for members on this point, and apologies, Peter, I didn't see you on the participant list, so apologies, I didn't mention you in my opening spiel. Me, but members are probably aware, but they might have forgotten. We have regular board meetings to do with this project, and I think it's, and Peter will know the number, I think it's up to waste board meeting number, is it 64 now, something like that? Staggering amount of meetings we've had. So, but obviously the projects that has warranted it as we've gone down the track. But on the cost, it was brought up not many board meetings ago about the material costs. And without going into great detail, I did ask the question of Peter, if an element of the material cost of the project jumped 50%, because that's the sort of figures we're talking about in material costs of wood, steel, etc. Peter, because he's always got the information at his fingertips, was able to say if the wood element or the steel element of the project jumped 50%, the tenders would still come within what the budgets are. And actually that's what happened with phase 1, because raw material prices were creeping up even at that stage. So where we've got to be cautious, there is a level of confidence that we're covered on that point, and hopefully that comes to pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any other questions from members of Cabinet? Nope. Okay, any non-members of Cabinet wish to raise any issues on this paper, please?
Julian, if I can just make a comment.
Oh, yes, Peter. Yeah, I've got Emma's hand up, but I'll bring Peter in first.
So
yeah.
apologies. You're familiar with how you're supposed to raise your hand. Yeah, I just want to make the point that in terms of the timescales for issuing the invitation to tender for phase 2, we're going to issue it as soon as possible. There are some dates in a table in the report that you've seen, but being honest with you, then there's a lot of work going on at the moment dealing with phase 1, the contract on site at the moment, and there's a lot of information to pull together for the ITT for phase 2. So we will issue it as soon as we can, but it may not be exactly in line with the dates in the table. That's just a heads up, really. We've worked through the implications of any slippage, and it should be okay, but I'm just saying that it might go out later than is indicated in the report, just for the record.
So the dates are indicative, essentially, but
the dates are target dates. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Emrys, you did have your hand up first, but I'll bring in Bobby first as a member of Cabinet. If that's okay.
I noticed Bobby's hand. Yeah, she's
Cabinet. So I'll just bring Bobby in first, if that's okay. Yep.
Apologies, Emrys.
No problem.
I wasn't quick enough.
You carry on, Bobby. I'm okay.
Just clarifying, as you know, when you read the nitty-gritty, it is quite complicated in terms of what you do when and where you put what. I'm just double checking that you've got the communication with our 94,000 residents absolutely off pat and easy for them to understand and pin on their notice boards, so as for the first few months initially they will be able to follow what they have to do when it is eventually introduced. Just hoping that goes along, that communication plan goes along with the introduction. I know it's some time before the introduction, but I'm just flagging it up as something essential.
Yeah, if I jump in quick,
Yeah,
Bobby,
go on, Brian. Yeah.
rest assured there is an absolute detailed comms plan around this, which was in its infancy before COVID and would have developed, but it's developed on, and it's absolute belt and braces. I've seen it, it's more than a draft. There will be no issues on that front.
Okay, that's very
Excellent,
clear.
thank you.
Yep.
I hope it doesn't come back to bite you.
Can I just add something, Chair? Is that
Yep,
okay?
Tony.
Sorry, I don't seem to have the ability to raise my hand electronically, as well as my camera not working. So, yes, so apologies for that. Yeah, but what Brian said is correct, and obviously, the this report isn't about the new service change. Generally, it's about very specifically about the contract going to tender for phase 2. But just to mention that we are due to go to scrutiny with a general update on the new waste model. Peter will remind me, but I think it's is it the 9th of December?
Yeah.
December, yeah.
Yeah, so we will be going to talk more generally about the service change at scrutiny again in December.
Yeah. So please come along, everybody, please come along to that scrutiny meeting.
Okay, thank you, Tony, Brian. Okay, Emrys, sorry to keep you waiting.
Diolch yn fawr. Di pawb yn clywed i?
I can.
Ie, diolch yn fawr. Achos mae'r link yn ansefydlog iawn. Dwi wedi gorfod gadael a dod yn ôl unwaith yn barod. O iawn, dwi'n derbyn bod efallai hyn ddedodd ofynodd Bobby, awgrymodd Bobby o ran cyfathrebu. Dio ddim yn uniongyrchol berthnasol i'r athogfen yma sy'n blaen i heddiw, ond yn sicr mae o'n berthnasol yn anuniongyrchol, a dwi'n cyd-fynd â'r chwbl yma i ddweud. Ac mae'n nghwestiwn i mewn gwirionedd, neu nghaes i yn gysylltiedig â hyn. Dwi'n sylwi oedd y cynghorydd Mark Young yn dweud sy'n habraf i Mags Ddinbych gael cyfle i ymweld â'r safle. Dwi'n meddwl mae Mark Young yn dweud, cytuno'n llwyr, ond mae o ddiddordeb i'r aelodau gyd ys hynny ddeud. Ac i ni gael addewid y byddwn ni'n cael cyfle fynd i Glanedrdwy i weld y safle fanno rhyw ben. Dydy o ddim wedi digwydd, ddim yn disgwyl y bydd o'n digwydd yn y tymor hwn wan. Ond mi fysa'n braf pe ba'n efo hoddiad i'r Mags i gyd gael mynd yno yn i'w tro i weld y sefydliad yn gweithio. Wrach ddim rwan di'r amser i fynd yng nghanol y mwd ar glaw, dwi'n derbyn hynny, ond pe ddawn y gyfle yn y dyfodol. Dwi'n meddwl fydda fo'n o fyd i bob aelod. Diolch yn fawr.
Is there any way we can improve the translation? It is very difficult to understand. It's loud and it's blurry.
Would you like me to go through it in English?
I understood the translation. It was a bit distorted, but I understood it fine. So
yeah, I just wondered if now we know that it is distorted, could something be done about it?
Okay, I'm sure.
Can I suggest, Bob? Yeah, if I can come back, I'm having terrible problems with links now. Everybody's breaking up. I'm having to try to fill the blanks in the sentences for most of the speakers. I think I've got it right mostly. But in a nutshell, Bobby, I'm asking, can other MAGs, other members also be invited onto a site visit sometime in the future, preferably when the BRYS is in action? Diolch.
Okay, I'm sure officers will take that request on board.
Noted, Julian. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Right. I'm not seeing anybody else indicating they wish to speak on this item. So in that case, if I can go back to Brian for the recommendations, please.
Yeah. Yes, Julian. So 3.1 reads that Cabinet grant approval to undertake the proposed tendering exercise, and there's a note added to that a further report will be brought back to Cabinet for the approval of the subsequent contract award following the tendering exercise, which will also confirm contract management arrangements, tendered costs, and the contract details. And 3.2, that the Cabinet confirms it has read, understood, and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment at Appendix 1 as part of its consideration. Thank you.
Okay, so Brian's moved that, and Mark, I think, is indicating that he's seconding that. Okay, is there anybody not in agreement with those recommendations? Nope. Okay, we'll take that. That is carried. Okay, bring the next one up. Right, item 7 on the agenda. Contract award and policy changes for a new contract to manage our household waste recycling centres. I'll ask Gary to just confirm this. I know part of this report has been sent out because of it's a joint contract and it hasn't been agreed by all parties yet. Is in part 2. So I would ask that if any members wish to discuss the confidential appendix, if we leave that to the end, if we answer any other questions first, rather than going in and out of part 2. Is that right, Gary?
Yes, the reason Appendix 1 is in Part 2 is that it's commercially confidential, and also as this needs to be approved by both councils, it's not yet been to Conway's cabinet, so it's confidential. It's there for members' information, so they have all of the information available to them before they make a decision. But if anybody did want to ask a detailed question on any of the contents of Appendix 1, we would need to go into Part 2. Okay.
Thanks very much. So again, it is Brian and Tony, and Tara's apologies again, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So Brian, over to you.
Yeah, I'll kick off then. Yeah, so to state the obvious, obviously this is a collaboration proposal with Conway on the household waste recycling centre provision. Obviously a lot of work's gone into this with officers on both sides of the border, and the headlines about the project, when you do digest it and go through it all, more than overall, it will be a benefit to the residents of Denbighshire and the residents of Conway. They'll have the benefit of the cross-border use of the recycling centres. It will be a cheaper option in many aspects of what will be provided as a service, as opposed to costs in the private sector if you're going to be hiring skips. And the booking system, which hasn't been everyone's cup of tea, but a massive majority of residents like the booking system now. They've got into the swing of the booking system, and overall it works very, very well. And I've got hands-on experience here in Rail at the Marsh Road Recycling Centre, where they wouldn't change back from that now. It really is the best way to work. Some of the other headlines in the report, there will obviously be a cost saving to Denbighshire. That will be governed by the amount of tonnage that goes through the centres, but there will be a cost saving without doubt. Residents will be able to visit 3 times a month. That's another point I think we need to clear up from the cabinet brief. And of course, this has already gone to scrutiny. It's been through scrutiny, and it came through with a virtual clean bill of health. And so if it is approved today, I believe it will be a benefit to the residents of Denbighshire and Conway, as I've already said. So that's my opening spiel on that, and probably Tony would want to add a couple of points as well. Thank you. Okay,
thank you, Brian. Tony, please.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously a bit more of an in-depth report, this one, and there are kind of 2 main aspects to it, I think, which we need to make sure we're clear about. One is about the proposal to award this contract across the 2 local authority areas to manage our recycling centres. But the other aspect is the adoption of a new set of policies governing the use of our recycling centres. And the 2 things, although I could say they're slightly separate, they are linked very heavily, because the tender process has been based on that assumption that these are the policies that will be adopted for, within the recycling centres. So the tenders that were received were based on that, based on the assumption of income being generated through these policies. So it kind of, they both go together. You kind of, we can't approve one without the other, is what I'm kind of saying here. As Brian says, though, we have discussed this issue at scrutiny last year. We also had a discussion, an informal session of cabinet where we discussed this, and this is the proposal we're taking forward. There has actually been a very slight tweak since the discussion we had recently. There was a concern raised around the limit to visiting a recycling centre of 3 times in a month. We have discussed that with Conway, and there's been a slight tweak, which is on page 89 of the pack, which actually we're saying now that a household can visit up to 6 times in every 2 calendar month period. So it does give that added flexibility. If somebody has got a very intense kind of period where they do require to visit a recycling centre a number of times in a short space of time, for example, I don't know, if you're moving house or something like that. So we've listened to that concern, we've addressed it. We don't think anybody should really require visiting a recycling centre more than 6 times in a 2-month period. But we have to. We've set a limit, but we've been more flexible in relation to that. So there's a lot of detail in here, and I'm here to try and answer those questions. Obviously, Tara would have been here as well, and Tara was the one who was actually directly involved in the evaluation of the tenders. So I will do my best to answer all your questions. The main points that I think Brian was making, and I would reiterate, was that the booking system's working really well, both from our point of view and for residents. We get a lot of positive feedback from it. People seem to like the fact that they can be guaranteed when they go to a recycling centre, they will be able to get in and they won't have to queue up for an hour, which has happened, in the past when I visited recycling centres without an appointment. It's a very busy day and there's a queue down the road. So this avoids that situation. The charging element, which is obviously going to attract some attention, what we are doing here is effectively providing an additional option for residents, which doesn't exist at the moment. The types of waste that we're talking about charging here, which is classed as non-household waste, we have no obligation to take this material in our recycling centres. And at the moment, we restrict it to very, very small amounts because we don't have to accept it and it costs the council money to dispose of it. What people will be able to do now is effectively bring as much as they like, and as long as they pay a reasonable charge for it. It's an alternative to them having to hire a skip, which they would otherwise have to do currently. So it gives people a different option at a reasonable cost. So we think it's a positive thing rather than a negative thing, although I can understand why it would be seen as a negative and maybe picked up as being so. So I'll probably stop there, Chair, if that's okay, and obviously go through any questions that we will have from members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So any questions from members of Cabinet in relation to this? I mean, one point I just wanted to make is probably a little bit further down the line in terms of how we communicate this to residents. Because obviously, as you say, it is an extension of what they currently have in terms of the facility, but obviously there is an additional charge for doing that, which is perfectly fair. But I think we just need to make sure that we've got all the communications messages down pat.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Julian, and that's something that we'll make sure there's sufficient communications working with Lizzie's team. To make sure this is all very clear. This, we've got some time between now and when the contract will begin. So that's all in hand.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Tony. Mark.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Chair. Again, good report, and it's good you've listened with the extra drop-offs being allowed, 6 per 2 calendar months is good. So, you know, good for listening. The only bit I just want clarifying is the booking system. We're saying how good it is, and I'm guessing, will the new company running it be setting up a new one? Just to clarify, who's going to set that up? Who's going to own it? And is it a joint one? Just to clarify that one, please, Chair, because I couldn't quite get to the detail of that in the report. So just clarification on that in case anyone asks, so we understand who set it up, who owns it, and is it joint?
No, that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, did you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, no problem. The proposed booking system is one that's being developed by Conway, and that we're proposing to use across both councils. We both have a separate system at the moment that we both initially set up really in response to COVID, and so we think there is definite benefit in us using the same system, because we're talking about being able to book, you know, a site in either county. So yeah, Conway will lead on that, and we're proposing to use their system.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, and just one other on that then. So that's okay, and no, I think I'll leave it there for now, Chair. I might come back in.
Thanks, Mark. Bobby.
Yes, I want to agree once again, similarly to the last point on the communication, how essential it is. Can I say that anything at all that we can do as individuals or as a council to help in terms of carbon reduction and improving the situation that we have globally at the moment with our planet is to be commended, and if at all possible we need to work with it and get behind it, because you know time is running out on that score. But we must bring people with us, and the communication side, once again, as Julian said, it's further down the line, but how important it is. And I'm glad to hear Tony say he has introduced the possibility of a bit of flexibility, particularly in terms of house clearance when people are moving, or house clearance when somebody dies. The last thing they want to be worrying about is whether or not they're allowed to take whatever it is here, there and anywhere when they're clearing an entire house. So I'm pleased to hear you're introducing flexibility on that, but we must bring the public with us on this. I cannot emphasize that enough. So the more we do around the communication, the better.
Okay, thank you, Bobby.
Agreed, Bobby.
Yes, and I'm not seeing any other cabinet members with their hands raised. Oh, Mark wants to come back in.
Yeah, just a quick one. Obviously, there's loads of detail in this report, and I'm just wondering about the upgrading of whoever's going to be running this, management and staff. There's quite a skill going to be needed here. So how much period have we got to get everyone up to speed? Because it is going to be a big piece of work to understand and explain this to people. So when's the start date, and how are you going to test that it's ready to go? Thank you, and that's it then.
Well, the start date, April next year, the start date. It's a pity Tara's not with us this morning. She'd have the background to that, but Tony can probably chip in, I would have thought.
Yeah, we've got no concerns at all about the ability of the provider to be up to speed to begin the contract on the 1st of April successfully. That's all been part of the tender evaluation exercise.
Yeah, that's fairly clear. Okay, so I'm just looking around, can't see any cabinet hands raised. So, Emrys.
Ie, diolch yn fawr, Gadeirydd. Dim ond yn sydyn iawn cytuno am yr elfen gyfathrebu unwaith eto. Mi fydd y ffaith bod y defnyddwyr yn mynd i orfod talu am ddefnyddio rhai elfennau o'r canolfannau hyn yn mynd i'n siŵr o o godi gwrychu'n nifer o'n trigolion ni. Gai sôn amdana y graffaeth sy'n ni'n gallu rhagweld yn bersonol. Dwi'n mynd yno fel arfer wedi i lawr i'r Rhuthun, wedi rhoi llenwi tre tre'r bychan o nwyddau gwahanol. Ambell i damed o bren, lle na ddim bus llon sach o goed. Tamed, darn o bren wrach yn mynd i fewn i un lle, tamed o blastig o le arall. Ac dwi'n yn siŵr sut mae'r elfen godi dalu yn mynd i weithio fo hynny, achos fe fod yn hawdd iawn fod yn talu am gael gwared o bren, gael gwared o chydig o sment, gael gwared o chydig o ffenest fach blastig wrach. Dwi'n rhagweld y gallai fo greu anifyrwch ar ambell i safle weithiau, a dwi'n gobeithio y bydd y gweithwyr ar y safleoedd hyn wedi derbyn digon o gymorth ac hyfforddiant i sicrhau na fod yn rhaid iddyn nhw yn drin ac elfennau llai pleserus a allgodi mewn ymweliad.
Okay, thank you, Emrys. Tony, did you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, no problem, Chair. Yes, staff will be very well trained and able to deal with those issues, Chair. I don't know if it provides some kind of assurance, but I can speak from experience, having been as a Conway resident, where these charges already exist in their recycling centres, and when I visit there, the process works really well and it's really smooth. Even if you're not sure about, what things are chargeable or how much you have of them, it works quite well. When you make an appointment, you have to kind of say what types of waste you plan to bring, just generally speaking, categories, ticking categories. And then when I go to the recycling centre, I'm met by somebody who has a look to see what I've got, and then they will advise as to anything that I would need to pay for to dispose of there, and how much that would be, and it works very smoothly. It's it's actually a really quite a good service, I have to say.
Brian?
Can I just very quick?
Sorry, Emrys, yeah,
very quickly come back on that. Can I just ask, just say for example now, I've got a small trailer loaded with building materials, and I've got 3 bags of cement there. I understand now I'm going to pay for £2 per bag for the hardcore and rubble, okay? But amongst there as well, I've got 1 single fence post, which is neither here nor there, and that needs to go to the other skip. Will I be charged for that single fence post?
It's a very, very detailed question. Yeah.
Well, it just gives you a scenario of what could happen from anybody, really.
Are you able to answer that one, Tony? Or would you need to go back to Emrys outside the meeting?
I would need to go back to have a look, Chair, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So it's a very specific question.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the practicality of it, that's all, Tony. I'm looking at the practicality of how it will work, and that's what's related to the question.
The practicality of how it would work, Chair, as I say, is that it would work really smoothly in practice at the recycling centre. That if the things that there would be a charge for, the staff there very clear about what needs to be charged for and what doesn't need to be charged for, and then that will be a conversation that takes place with the residents, and a decision can be made by the residents as to whether or not they wish to proceed, with leaving the waste there. So in practice it works very smoothly. It's all very clear, and the resident has an option.
Okay, but if you want to take it offline, Emrys, with Tony in terms of the specific detail.
Yeah. Well, yes, as I say, I'm a bit hesitant on how this is going to work, but yeah, you can sense that from the way I'm speaking, asking the questions. So.
No, it's fair enough. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, just want to make the obvious points. Good discussion. I like the comments that have been made because it gives the officers now an opportunity to zone in, focus in on exactly this sort of conversation, and we can brush it up, speak with Conway. Nothing's insurmountable to work around it. It comes back to what's already been said. We've got roughly 6 months if we get a green tick in the box today. Yeah. The communication, absolute key on this, and I'm sure Mr. Ward and Todd Dumas, they are to grips with it. But further to these conversations this morning, we can polish it all up.
Okay. Chair, I think the reality is that you know, things like fence posts, I think it was the example that Emma's used, they are chargeable items. So in 7.4 of the report on page 91 of with the policies, it explains what charges will be applied, and under wood and timber, it says it applies to general construction waste such as timber doors, internal and external, wooden sheds, fence panels and posts. So I think that, you know, that's the answer. That
yeah, I know. It's that single post. Yeah, yeah. My point was that single post. You know, unsolderable. Yeah. I don't think you want to pursue it here. I think it's something a conversation outside this meeting.
Yeah. This is about the principle rather than today, rather than the detail of how something will be handled on site. Hugh.
Yeah, thanks. Just to come on, I mean, Brian covered it really, but you know, Emrys makes a really valid point, because sometimes you be sitting here thinking, well, what can I actually take to the recycling centre without being charged? Maybe the question that we need to understand, because Emrys has given an example of a bag of cement and a post. It's something that, you know, most of our residents might want to do. So I think we just got to be really clear on the comms, what is and what isn't acceptable straight away, because I don't want the situation where we're going to have people on the ground, you know, these centres having to deal with these queries, and it's not crystal clear what the situation is. So it's just a warning on as I think Bobby did it as well on the comms, and they were totally clear in what we were allowed and what we're not allowed to do. You know, what I know it sounds daft, but what's the definition of rubble?
Chair, you know, if I could try and help.
Yes, certainly.
On page, so I'm just trying to find the page 90 of the pack. At the bottom of that page, there's 7.1. It does provide hopefully an explanation of what's chargeable and what isn't. And it explains that the council only has a legal obligation to provide recycling centre facilities for household waste, which is waste arising from the day-to-day running of a household. However, items from the repair or improvement of houses, such as DIY type waste, is classed as construction waste, and there is no requirement for the council to provide any service for the disposal of this material or to accept it free of charge. So that's the kind of essence of the definition of the difference between household waste and non-household waste. And general household waste free of charge. The council, you know, has that obligation to accept that. Is this non-household waste and what's defined as non-household waste? And obviously there are a lot of more detailed descriptions of what that means later on in 7.4, and there's a list of things there that would be considered to be non-household waste. Everything else free.
So Tony, if I may, Julian. So Tony, if I take a wall down in my house today, and I was to take a bag of rubble to the recycling centre, would they charge me now?
Not now, because although we're not obliged to accept that bag of rubble, Hugh, we do currently allow small amounts to be taken. So a bag, you would be allowed to take a bag, because
and under the new policy,
we wouldn't accept it.
Under the new policy, would I be allowed to take a bag?
Yes, you'd be able to take 10 bags, Hugh, if you want.
But I'd have to pay for it.
Yes. Yes, or you could hire a skip. You could either hire a skip, or you could take as many bags as you like, and pay the small fee for it.
So what I'm saying is then, effectively, it is a change in service that at the moment I can take one bag, but in the future I won't be able to take one bag.
You can take one bag, although we're not obliged to take your one bag. So our policy is that we don't accept any rubble at the moment. So, you know, from a strictly speaking, you can't take a bag now, but you will be able to take 10 bags under the new policy. So it gives you an extra option that you don't have currently. Right, but I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a pain, Tony. Just I'm really concerned about the comms and how it works on the ground. Is currently you're not allowed. We don't need to accept rubble, but we will accept one bag. In the future, we will only charge for it. So it's actually potentially taking away a service, isn't it? Does that make sense? Well, yeah, I think we're expanding the service and the range of options available to people. I get the point you're making, Hugh.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm just worried about the communication, that's all.
I suppose the issue is that if we actually enforce the rules as they stand at the moment, you wouldn't be able to take your bag. It's because we're allowing a little bit of flexibility because it's only a very small amount at present. It's not really part of the policy, as I understand it.
That's true.
And by trying to accommodate people, we're actually maybe making a rod for our own backs. Perhaps it's better if we just enforce the rule as it should be. That's the problem when you make exceptions to rules. I saw somebody else's hand up.
But Julian, I think Bobby makes a really good point in the chat here, where she said, you know, it needs to be simplified because residents aren't going to wade through loads of papers to find out what they're going to be charged for, what not charged for.
But as I understand it, they wouldn't have to. I'm stand to be corrected. My understanding would be if I wanted to go and make a booking because I'd done some work in the house and I wanted to get rid of it, I would ring up or go online, and they would then ask me what I wanted to bring, and they would tell me what would be chargeable and what wouldn't be chargeable. So I wouldn't have to go through the document myself. I would only have to tell them what I'm bringing.
That's correct, Julian.
So if you book online, it would tell you you're going to be charged.
If you book online, yeah, it will be clear what categories of waste will be chargeable and which are not. And then when you get, but it's only really when you get to the site that you know the operatives will be able to confirm, you know, how many things have you got? What have you got? You've got 4 bags of rubble, so that's going to be X, and yeah, it'll be confirmed on site. But yeah, it'll be really clear what things will be chargeable and which things are not. Yeah, I think it's, you know, and the comms that we will do between now and then will make it very clear what things are chargeable for and which things are not. I think, you know, I don't see that we will have too much problem getting that across, because it's if you simplify the message within the report, the information here, it's quite straightforward. It's very specific categories of waste.
Okay, Bobby?
Yeah, just to come in on it again, I mean, not only are we councillors, and some of us like me have been a councillor for longer than I care to remember, but we're cabinet members and we're asking questions which are very, very basic because we're not quite sure. So I am a little bit nervous of your confidence, Tony, in saying that everybody will understand, it will be very clear and nobody will have a problem. You know, it sounds as if I already have a problem, and I have been through it quite a bit to see what is and isn't allowed or tried to. And, you know, if I'm finding, you know, I am 120% behind recycling. Nobody could be more, you know, wanting to be green than me. But if I'm having trouble understanding, I worry about the residents across Denbighshire, as I said in the previous, you know, item on the agenda. You know, I do worry about people's understanding. I take on board that you say it's going to be fine and everybody will understand, and I hope against hope that you are right, but I am still worried until it happens and it goes out smoothly and everybody understands, and nobody sort of nabs me in Tesco or other supermarkets are available, you know, and says, what the heck is going on? That then fine, I'll breathe a sigh of relief. So you know, for now, fingers crossed, I'll just take on board what you say and hope it's right.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in Tony's mouth, but I think probably maybe his confidence is based on the fact that Conway residents are already using the system, presumably without too much issue. And therefore, if Conway residents are able to do it, I assume Denbighshire residents will be able to do it as well.
That's
Brian?
part of it, Julian.
Yeah.
And I said the other thing I would just go back and say is that, you know, I think it's quite clear what the types of waste are that we will charge for. 7.4 is construction and demolition waste, in brackets soil, rubble and DIY waste, plasterboard, asbestos, wooden timber, tyres and gas bottles. It's quite a specific list of things, and you know, I think it's quite clear. That's my view, and I think we're able to communicate that in a clear way to residents.
And of course, the vast majority of residents are probably never going to use any of those things. Brian?
Yeah, just I think we're basing this on a little bit more than sort of fingers crossed. And perhaps what I'm saying is because I've lived with it closer as the lead member. But if you're going online to book on a form and you're ticking against tyres, and you'll know you're paying for that, won't you? So I've already said it. I'll say it again. I've picked up from this session today, the communication has got to be rock solid on this, absolutely rock solid. And I've got every confidence that Tony and the team will do that. And as you already said, Julian, Conway are already operating it. And all we need to make sure is any little teething problems are dealt with in a reasonable way, a win-win way. And in theory, it can't, but not run fine. Yeah, in theory, yeah, but I check there could be the point Emrys made about you know, turning up with a bag of rubble and a wooden post. But I think Tony has answered that to a great degree, that it is covered. If you go online or if you ring up, you can book and you will understand when you're going through that process.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'm not sure who was the first. I'll go to
Emrys. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. I hear everything that's been said, but as I say, my concern is Denbighshire will be asking residents to part with money which in the past they haven't had to part with that same money for doing the same task. And there's an element of custom and practice involved here as well. At least 5 years since this term of the council and before then as well. And this is the challenge that our operatives on site will have to face as and when. If I go to a shop and I'm not happy with the services I'm getting there, I can ask to speak to the manager who's probably upstairs. I can't do the same on the civic amenity sites. That is not as easy. So I leave it there. I've got my trepidations, as you know. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've given this a pretty good thrash. Tony, and then Graham, and then we'll bring this to a conclusion.
Apologies again for not raising my hand.
It's okay.
Just to go back on that, I mean, we're not actually asking people to part with money for something that we've previously allowed them to do for free. That's kind of the part of the point here. We're allowing people to bring materials in future that they currently would not be able to bring to the recycling centres. The only other way they would be able to relieve themselves of this waste currently in these quantities would be to hire a skip or to pay a licensed waste operative company to remove it for them. So they would have to pay for it in that way anyway. So I just wanted to highlight that again.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Tony. And finally, Speaker Graham.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I mean, good discussion. I think members are right in terms of implementing any kind of change or something new will raise issues. and that members are right to be concerned and to ensure that the impact on residents as a result of that change is understood. And I think that discussion has helped frame some of those concerns and issues, and Tony and lead member Brian Jones have provided pretty strong, robust answers, I think. Obviously, good communication will be important in getting the message over when we make this sort of change or any type of change. And again, I think this discussion will have helped Tony and Brian in that regard. And I've picked up on some of those issues as well to make sure that we'll, in terms of good communication around the change. What's already been said is that the neighbouring authority have already implemented these changes some time ago. That didn't cause any major upset or concerns there, but of course we can also have the advantage of, in terms of following them, is learn some of the lessons that that happened there, and make sure we implement those as part of that communications and implementation plan. And I know Tony and lead member Councillor Brian Jones has that in hand as well. So I think it's a good debate, but hopefully we can move forward with the recommendations. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Right, so if I can go to Brian now for the recommendations, and there are a number of them.
Yeah, I think on this occasion, Chair, I'll read them all because it is a.
I think it probably is a good idea. Yeah,
an important subject. So 3.1. The Cabinet authorises the awarding of the contract to the preferred bidder identified in the Joint Procurement Tender Evaluation Report, Appendix 1, having demonstrated that they have submitted the most economical, advantageous tender, and noting that the contract will be awarded by Conway Council as the lead authority. 3.2 is that members confirm they have read, understood and taken account of the updated wellbeing assessment Appendix 4 as part of its consideration, and note that this will be updated upon contract award. 3.3, that the joint HLC policy with Conway at Appendix 2 be adopted from the contract commencement date, which will be April the 1st next year. 3.4, that the DIY construction waste charges at Appendix 3 be formally adopted from the contract commencement date. 3.5, that the joint HRC booking system under in-house development at Conway Council be adopted permanently. 3.6, that a report is taken back to partnership scrutiny to review the first year of the new contract operation. And finally, 3.7, Cabinet note that the agreement between Conway and Denbighshire needs to be agreed, and request that the service is supported by legal services to prepare this agreement. Thank you, Chair.
okay, thank you, Brian. That's Brian's proposed. Is there a seconder for that? Tony, I think, yes, Tony, you were seconding that. Are you happy for us to take those all on block? Okay, nobody saying anything else. Is there anybody that is against those recommendations, please? Okay, not seeing anything on that, so we'll take that as carried. Okay, so we now come to item 8, which is me, the finance report. My usual monthly update. There's not been a significant amount of movement since last month's report. The projected overspend figure for the year is now standing at around about £656,000, which is down slightly from the £835,000 which was reported to the last meeting. Appendix 2 to the report gives details of movement broken down by service, and the main cause of the reduction in this month's projected overspend figure relates to the Education and Children's Services service, and it's down to a reduction in some of the specialist placement costs, which haven't been required for as long as had been anticipated. In terms of the Welsh Government COVID funding claims, We've submitted for April to July claims for around about £3.4 million. And also against the loss of income for Q1 of £1.9 million. We will be anticipating that certainly in terms of the loss of income as services reopen to a greater extent, that claim will drop off quite considerably as we progress through the year. In terms of corporate budgets, those are still projecting a break-even position. There are the usual areas of concern in terms of council tax collection, take-up of council tax reduction scheme, and the final pay awards. But currently, we think within the existing budgets we can probably handle those. In terms of the schools budgets, there is now a credit balance projected at 3.8 million, which is down by about 1.8 million from what we started the financial year with. That's as anticipated, because as we've reported previously, much of that additional build-up was due to late receipts of grant from Welsh Government at the back end of the last financial year, which it was always intended would be spent during the course of this year. In terms of the major capital plan projections, not too much to update from what was reported last month. You'll see the detail on broken down on each of the schemes in the relevant appendix. And the other point to mention is in section 6.7 of your report. There's a recommendation from the Strategic Investment Group in terms of the taking up of the schools maintenance grant, which is essentially for additional maintenance works that would not otherwise have been able to have taken place. It's the programme of works that's been built up together with education colleagues and the property team. The business case for that is contained within your report as Appendix 5, with a detailed list of the prospective jobs that will be carried out in Appendix 6 and the impact assessment in Appendix 7. So I think that's probably all I needed to say at this point. Steve, is there anything you wanted to add?
Only one thing, Julian, just to stress the SIG recommendation and that grant. It's been going on now for about 3 or 4 years, where Welsh Government give us, they began by giving us an allocation right at the end of whatever year it was. I can't remember, 3 or 4 years ago now. And it meant that we had to allocate the actual grant to spend in year, so the spend that we were spending on schools anyway for property. But what it did mean is that we could carry our underspend forward, and that's what this is again. And it's just going, so formally it has to come through this. It would be nice if that was actually just formalized and put on a permanent basis, and then it could just be done as part of the capital capital budget every year that you approve. But unfortunately we have to do it in this sort of convoluted way. So just to explain why that has come to you, and that the projects themselves, the list of projects, that it's completely in consultation with obviously modernising education, and they consult with schools, so it's really their priorities along with property. So just a word on that, really. Thanks, Julian.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Any questions from cabinet members first of all? Nope, see anything. Now Emrys has left. I can't actually see there are any non-cabinet members on my screen. Oh yes, Rhys is here, sorry, yeah. Okay, any questions from anybody? No, in that case, I'll shut up and get on with the recommendation. So recommendation 3.1 is the members note the budget set for 21-22 and progress against the agreed strategy. 3.2, members approve the recommended use of the school's maintenance grant.
Julian. Oh. You're a bit wobbly.
It's probably your end rather than mine, I've been advised by IT, but I'll take my camera off anyway, just to be on the safe side. 3.2, that members approve the recommended use of the school's maintenance grant which has been awarded to the council by the Welsh Government as recommended by the Strategic Investment Group and detailed in this report under sections 6.7 and appendices 5, 6 and 7. I'd move that. Is there a seconder?
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Is there anybody not in agreement with those recommendations? No. Okay, that's carried. Which then just takes us to item 9, which is the Cabinet Forward Work Plan. So over to you, Gary.
Sorry, Julian, I was just checking that I was unmuted. Yeah, there are a couple of changes to the plan that I've been notified of. So in terms of the November forward work plan, the contract award redevelopment of the former library in Prestatyn has moved from November to December. There's a new item to be added in January, which is contract award approval for new waste fleet to support the new waste service model. And there's a new item for February, which is the contract award approval for the phase 2 construction works that was on the agenda earlier today.
Okay, thank you, Gary. There's also will be a new item on the January meeting, which will be the budget proposals. Is there anything else that anybody wishes to raise on the forward work plan? No. Okay, that's fine. In that case, that brings us to the end of the agenda according to my papers. So thank you everybody for your contributions, and I'll see you. Have a good rest of the day, if I'm not seeing some of you later anyway. And have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Julian.
Thank you all. Goodbye.